Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight for A World Awakening. Tonight I have a very special guest and a very special friend. Dana Stricker is joining us momentarily. Really, this is, I did a show on Sunday night. I'm sure you can find it out there with Dana and Deb DeRoos. And I just did Soul School with Deb DeRoos, and now it's Dana's turn. And we're going to really be basically addressing the same issue, which is how do we get through the holidays when we feel all the feels, and some of those are dark feelings of loss. And how difficult that is for us. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Dana Stricker to the show.
Hello again. I haven't seen you in years.
No, you haven't seen me in hours. Oh, God.
Hours. Yeah.
It's so good to welcome you you back to the show. You had so much to add to the show Sunday night with Deb. It seemed only logical to carry forth this theme into, Christmas week.
Yeah.
When so many people are dealing with myriad emotions all at once, and the intensity and the stress and the anxiety that we feel, and sometimes even about our own family, being around the same table. And it's like, this is what we can talk about. This is what we can't talk about. I mean, there's a lot of families that are dealing with that right now, particularly right now. And so anyway, I'm just going to, for those that haven't had the opportunity to read the opening, the title for the show tonight is Dana Stricker, Beacon Lights the Way. And look at you, how radiant you are.
I am a beacon.
You are a beacon.
I think it's the color red. I think that's what
it is. And you wear it so well. And our description tonight is, so many of us suffer in silence, heartbroken at the holidays. We try to hide the pain and celebrate the season of light while privately wallowing in the darkness of loss. Tonight, Dana Stricker will offer her own solutions for finding our way through the grief. She is an inspiration. She is the light.
Oh,
so there is your, now I can.
How do I follow up now?
Just by being you.
I think that, the holidays can really suck. And I have to be honest with you, I would say the last good Christmas, that didn't have some kind of drama attached to it, was before I got divorced. So you're talking many moons ago.
Yeah.
And my son was quite young. And I think that can be said for a lot of people. But, there's a lot of struggles we go through. Everybody goes through the different things. But I think as you start to age, when you start hitting middle age area, and if your parents are still with you, you just went through this.
Yes.
I'm going through some stuff with my mom.
Yeah.
Dementia wise. Now, anybody that's met my mom even 2-3 years ago, that woman didn't look or act her age. She was very snappish, very on it, very about it.
Yeah.
And today was the best day I think I've seen her in probably over a year.
Wow.
But it comes and goes.
Yes, I know. I went through it myself. I went from Annie to being Frankie, her sister, to being Mama.
She called me Mom.
Did she?
Yeah, I went down to wake her up one morning, and she was like, she has these crazy dreams. I mean, she dreamt about, UFOs and an alien named something 12, A12, with an alien baby that was flying around the living room, and it would only eat this or drink this particular formula. And she was telling me all this, and I'm going, how do I?
Based on my experience, Dana, that could have been real as shit.
And of course, who did I think of immediately?
Yeah.
You. And I thought, okay, guys, if you are indeed coming down, and my cat's gonna drive me nuts throughout this podcast.
That's okay. I got Peanut over I had to give her my robe a few minutes ago. She's right there on the sofa. Your cat is welcome. My dog is always welcome. Usually,
he's used to going in and out, and I have the door shut, so he's a little disgruntled. So now he's like, "You will open this door, and it will be open for me.
and it will be open because I live here. Damn it! Yeah,
I am the king." But anyway, so yeah, she has these wild dreams and stuff like that. It's just like living with a different person.
Yeah, I know. My mother spent the last 20 years of her life in this house, and she knew there was no second floor, and she knew that there was no cellar, that it was just a crawl space. And yet, the last few months of her life, I would go in with her coffee in the morning to sit with her, as I always did. And she would tell me about the people from the top floor that were coming down and rummaging through her jewelry, or the people that lived in the cellar that were coming up through the air vents, and they were circling around her bed and bothering her.
Terrifying.
I know. And I would, have to assure her that it was just the three of us in the house and our three critters, and that was it. And all the doors were locked, and reassure her that no one was intruding on her space. And then a couple of months before she passed, she started seeing her mother and her brother and her father.
That's what I was waiting for, but it hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
But she will say things sometimes that it's like, like all of a sudden, for instance, Rowan's cat, Ellie, who's like the elder cat in the house, she's like, I don't even know. We got him. Rowan's 22. We got her when he was like 5.
Yeah.
She started laying on her chest all the time. She's never done that.
Yeah.
Now my cat's the gray wonder that just left.
Yeah.
He'll go down and stay at her feet. And then her cat will be there. So she's like in this cat arc.
Yeah.
But she's improving right now. But, I'm not delusional.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's coming. I knew what was coming.
At some point, I'm not sure if it's yet, though, because they haven't even been able to tell me. And that's the other thing for people who have parents or family members with chronic illnesses, and you can't get any answers.
Right.
It drives me insane.
I know. Come here, baby.
So they don't, I don't know. But, there's a lot that's happened in the course of, I was divorced, and then my ex-husband died at a very young age.
Yeah. So
my sons had to contend with just me. Poor thing.
You're a handful.
There's a lot of stuff and it piles on top. Like I was talking earlier before we went on the air. I mean, I'm surprised I don't have cookie dough in my hair, because there's still a part of me that wants to make this Christmas decent, because I didn't even want to put a tree up.
I know.
I was like, why am I bothering doing any of this? Just give everybody cash. It's just another day. I'm over it. But then I started, what if it is her last Christmas?
Yeah.
What if it's the last Christmas at home?
Mm-hmm.
So there. I had to do it within 3 days, so now it's scramble time. But I think everybody goes through it. I'm not like, oh, woe is me, because I think everybody has their trials. And I think for some reason the holiday is supposed to be, and I have had great holidays. Like growing up were great holidays.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you have enough trauma-based experiences in your life, I think our default is to go back to that when it gets quiet. And Christmas is a quiet holiday for me. Like it's quiet, like you think about stuff. Yeah. So I always try to distract. I just look at funny stuff, or just, to try to get through that part of it, instead of sitting on the couch watching It's a Wonderful Life or You've Got Mail or whatever, and being like, because I'm not helping myself doing that.
But I think that it does. I really do. I mean, that's what Jen was talking about. We focused on Charlie Brown. Everybody's seen a Charlie Brown Christmas, and how touching it is, and how poor Charlie Brown always, He pulls the short straw every fucking time. And, and that bitch Lucy and the football and the whole 9 yards. And he, his expression is good grief to everything, when he deals with the disappointments of other people and the disappointments of life. But who does he have? He has Snoopy. He has his Snoopy. I have my peanut butter, the princess peanut butter cup.
Yeah, and doesn't she know it? She doesn't know at all that she's spoiled beyond. Look at her. She's just staring at you like.
I know. She is well aware that she is my treasure and my gift from the universe. I have always had big, humongous dogs. Like, always had to have an oversized bed for room for them. And this one, the universe gives me a Chihuahua.
It's a petite fillet. A petite fillet, she is.
Yes, she is. She's a little bit rotund because, it's winter. You got to put on a pound or two.
Right.
You want to go down with Sammy now? Do you want to? There. You be careful now. Be careful. Good girl. Good girl. She wanted to come say hello. Consider yourself fortunate because she did not move her ass off that sofa for the entire time that I was talking to Deb. But
just wait for my cat to come back in because you're going to get the mad wink, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
That's how he says hi. Yeah.
Yes, I do. So I think at Christmas, like for instance, when it's hard, when it's painful, this is our first Christmas without Mom. Yep. My sister Chris and I sat, and the other night, for the third time this season, we watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which also has many important lessons, in terms of, being from childhood, having those lessons integrated into our own personal value systems as we grow and we age. And I've always said that I spent my whole life feeling like I was on the island of misfit toys, and the best line in the whole show for me is when King Moonracer says that no toy is really happy until it is loved by a child.
Yep.
And that resonates with me, because there was trauma in my youth.
Yeah.
There was trauma at the farm, and it wasn't that it touched me personally, but it did because I saw my mother suffer there. I saw what my mother had to endure and what she had to learn, and that I had to learn through her, and to see my sisters go through the fear of the unknown. Nobody forewarned us moving into the farm.
Yeah, of course not.
What we were walking into, and none of us had. My mother had one experience when she was very, very young, that she didn't even remember until we moved to the farm, and she saw her first full body apparition. And that's when she remembered what she saw when she was 6 years old.
Oh my goodness.
That's what triggered it. And so I knew that my mother had the third eye sight. I knew that she did, even though I didn't know what that was at the time, because I was so young. But our parents did everything that they could, and the spirits in the house did everything that they could not to be intrusive, to be there, but to celebrate around our family. From Thanksgiving until New Year's, you could pretty much anticipate that nothing traumatic was going to happen. It's almost like they were watching us celebrate what they once celebrated when they were in human form. Also, my mother, when my mother was lucid, she couldn't remember what she had for breakfast, but she could remember what happened at the farm. And she remembered the Christmas when the spirit that looked so much like me showed up, just appeared next to the Christmas tree while we were opening our stockings,
wow.
And she just watched us. And she was the one that looked so much like me that the day that we moved out, and I told her that I had seen that spirit's face, and that she looked amazingly she looked just like I look now, except that she had wads of hair. Like, I've got big hair, but she had wads of hair and wore a very,
Wow.
a beautiful, like, mid 1800s high lace neck, leg of mutton sleeves, full length dress. And my mother, the day that we moved out, and I told her that I had seen her face and that it was the mirror image reflection of me, as I presume I would look as an older woman. She said to me that day, I always knew we bought this house for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I was, even though I was never attacked, I was never, put upon by any of the spirits in the house. I
Right.
knew I was journaling the experiences of myself and my other family. It was the foundation that I used to write the trilogy. House of Darkness, House of Light was
Yep.
my own journals from when I was a child, because my sister Christine will tell you, I don't throw away anything. I am going to need to go back and get a bigger house, because I just don't. I had it all. I had 7 journals from the 10 years that I lived in that farmhouse that gave me
Wow.
everything I needed for the foundation of that story, just by triggering those memories in myself
Right.
and my sisters and my parents. But in the end, Dana, she wasn't afraid to die. She knew there was something beyond our mortal existence, and she didn't know what any more than I do.
But
But
there's
she
something.
knew it was something. And because of your ability and Deb's abilities,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that's incredibly important to know. And I want our viewers and our listeners to know what I shared with Deb, is that so many of us during the holidays suffer from
Yeah.
empty chair syndrome, kind of like the empty nest syndrome that
Yep.
people go through when their kids, go off, grow up, how dare they, and go off to college or go have lives of their own. It's like, well, excuse me. And yet we feel that loss, and they're not even gone. They're just not in the house anymore, but they're not
Right.
gone. They're on the other side of a phone. I
But
don't know
that, what you just said, and this is what I tell my clients a lot of the time, because it's different for me just because, I guess, because I grew up like this or born like, whatever you want to say. I'm
Yeah.
a weird lady. But when you say they're on the other side of a phone, or they're in a different state or whatever, that's essentially what death is like.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still there.
Yeah.
They're just not, they're just that far out that you cannot hear them or see them.
They're
You
on a
might
different
sense them,
frequency.
or you
Yeah.
might hear them. Sometimes,
Yeah.
knocking, tapping,
Sometimes.
whatever,
Oh, yeah.
or talking.
Yeah. I
You
don't
might
need my
catch
phone to
lips.
call mom. She's right here.
Right. It's just that we have been programmed not to believe that. Now, it's scientifically, and I'm no scientist, people, so don't even, if I say this wrong, don't send me emails about it, because
Yeah, don't even.
it took me like 2 hours to figure out what time zone I was in today. So just settle down.
Okay.
But we're made of energy, and energy does not die. That's like a super basic knowledge of science. They know that.
Yeah.
So, you hear like hospice nurses and whatnot too. Sometimes they'll talk about when a person passes, there's almost like a fog, or they can actually physically see something leaving the body.
Right. We did with my mom.
That's what I'm saying. And a lot of people that have NDEs, near-death experiences, and they talk about being above their bodies looking down. Mm-hmm. They're describing to the doctor when they're brought back verbatim what happened, and they have no medical knowledge. That's not them having a fantasy that they were watching that. They were watching it.
They were watching it.
So when you leave this,
mm-hmm.
you're going somewhere.
Right.
The only mystery is where. My personal belief is that hell is on earth.
Yeah.
I think we're in it.
Yep. If you have any question in your mind about that, turn on the news.
Turn on the news.
Turn on the news.
But
hell on earth. Yep.
And that's another thing that, with all the stuff that's gone on in the last however long in this country, that weighs on people too. And I'm not going to get into specifics and name calling.
I know, but it does suppress.
It does, and it divides.
Anxiety and
yep.
And yeah, there's a lot of people in this country right now that don't know what's coming next. They're afraid. Fearfulness is the lowest possible vibration
flying around the sky that no one can talk about. Then all of a sudden they're not talking about.
I know.
I mean, if that was any other country, it's bizarre. It's like, and I told you this the other day. I feel like I'm living in an 80s movie, an 80s like disaster movie, or 90s disaster movie, like Armageddon or something, where it's like,
what I can
fantastical things are going on, and it's like, how can this even be real?
Yeah, I can tell you one thing. I've had dozens of inquiries. Is it the galactic?
Oh, I'm sure.
Is it them? Is it them? No, it's not them. It's stupid human tricks. I'm telling you, they are way more conscientious and far more discreet than to do that. This is something else entirely, and it's man-made.
But shouldn't they be telling us what it is? I mean, come on.
Yeah, they should. And why they're not, I don't know. Why 3 weeks ago, there was supposed to be an open forum in Congress about the UFO problem that got suddenly canceled.
Yeah, they're hiding. There's something going on.
There's lying liars who lie. Yes, they are. The shattering that ceiling of disclosure, Dana, it's not going to come from them. It's going to come from us. Those of us who are experiencers, those of us who are contactees, those of us who are hybrids, those of us who are on this earth specifically with the mission to help in the age of disclosure, which we are in. We are in the age of disclosure. Disclosure has already occurred. It's just that most people don't give it the credence that it deserves because it hasn't come from the presupposed authorities who have way too much to lose by telling the truth because it will undermine the power structure. It will. And so, the messages that I've been getting, I don't know how we hopped from death to UFOs, but I will say that the messages that I have been receiving for years is forgive them for being liars, because there's a reason that they're lying and they feel justified in doing so for a variety of reasons. And this is the way it's supposed to happen, because if it was supposed to happen another way, that's the way it would be happening. Meanwhile, we're being told nothing to see here, but don't look over there. We are right smack in the middle of disclosure. That is happening. But spirit is extraterrestrial. There is life
connected.
It's all connected. All of it is connected. All these beings, the sentient, prescient beings that are circumnavigating this globe in numbers that even ufologists can't wrap their heads around. It's not that different. In fact, I will tell you this, and I don't think I have told you this personally, but I had an incident at the farm last year where a message came through Cody and Satori that one of the spirits started talking, John Arnold started talking to them and telling them about the lights in the skies and the things that they saw at the farm in the 1800s.
I remember, you know what? When I went there and we were hanging out,
Did
you
you feel it?
mentioned something about that. And before you mentioned it, I said something, I think, to Christina.
Yeah.
It feels more UFO-y to me than anything. But I was outside. I wasn't inside. I was out, but
Yeah.
still outside.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't off, I guess.
I have a screenshot of me when I did the Ghost Brothers episode of their show at the farm.
Yes.
Have you seen that one where you can see right through my arm and see the woodwork on the other side of me as I am touching a being that is not necessarily a spirit, where there are 2-3 vessels hovering over my head and a shadow figure standing in the door?
Yeah, they freaked out pretty good.
That caused the entire paranormal community to go, what the hell is that? I wasn't in the third dimension anymore. I wasn't. I was beyond 3D when that happened.
Did they see that? Like, did they see it on camera only, or did they see it happen to you while you were sitting there?
They didn't see it happen while we were sitting.
I was just curious. I mean,
yeah, they saw it in the dailies. They saw it in the reels afterwards, and they called the guys, the 3 brothers, into the studio and showed it to them. Told them they had 7 minutes of video that they wanted to show them, and they never showed them any part of, they did the production end, they did the editing, the guys were there for the shoot, and that was it. And then they decided what got kept for the show. Gotcha. So they had never shown them any precursor to the actual airing of an episode until then. And then I was with them in Mansfield, Ohio. Like a few days later, they flew in from California to Ohio for the Ohio State Reformatory event, which is fabulous, by the way.
Yeah, it is a good one.
We did the VIP gathering at the beginning of the weekend, and they pulled me out of the room and took me over to a sit-down area and said, "We have something to tell you. And what we saw knocked us back. And when you see this episode, it is going to blow your mind." And I was like, "Oh, really? That's great. What is it?" "Well, we can't really tell you that." I'm like, "Then why did you pull me out of the room?"
Don't even bring it up yet then.
And they said, "No, this is so big. You're going to need to be prepared once it airs for what's going to happen around that." And so I appreciated that, because I was prepared. And I didn't even get to see the episode. I was in Vulture City in Arizona when it aired, and I didn't even get to see it until I got back home. But my phone lit up like a freaking Christmas tree the night of the airing, and I had everything turned off because I was doing an investigation with a bunch of people out in this old gold mine town out in the mountains of Arizona. And so when I got back to the hotel at like 2:00 in the morning, I must have had 50 messages of people that had watched it and went, "Oh my God."
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It was nuts.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was pretty crazy. But I do believe you're right, that it's all connected, that all life forms and all energy is just like one thing. And we're all tapping into divine mind. We're tapping into that consciousness. We're tapping into that energy. We are an expression of it.
Right. Because I know I don't get my medical stuff from the same place I get my other mediumship stuff from, or my psychic stuff from.
Yeah.
I know. I really don't think it's coming from that. It's coming from... Because how the hell am I going to know?
How old were you when you discovered your abilities? Like
in general?
Yeah.
I remember stuff happening at super early age, like 2-3 years old. That's when my lady showed up yelling Germanically at me, very guttural. She hasn't left. She's still with me. Never seen her. Yes, it's a spirit guide, and I hate terms like that.
Yeah,
you know how I am.
I know. I know.
I call her the battle
A
axe.
lot of new age vernacular. I am, because it's like we're making the shit up as we go along.
It's
trying to
weird. It's like
identify stuff.
there's certain things they attach to psychic mediumship now too, where I'm like, when did that become a thing? That's
Yeah.
weird. What happened back in 1850 when they were doing that? They didn't have that back then.
No.
It's weird to me. I just keep my mouth shut because I get in trouble a lot. But anyway.
No, me too. But when we lived at the farm, we didn't have any gizmos and gadgets, and
no,
we weren't walking around with a Polaroid on our wrists to try.
I have a very vivid memory of being when we lived in Milwaukee. So I was very, very young. The first spirit I recall seeing, like physically seeing, was a guy that was in our dining room. And I was still in a high chair. And my dad sat to the left and my mom sat to the right. And my sister was like directly across from me. I think in a high chair. I don't remember. She's 3 years older than me. And he would stand in the corner, like I was facing him and he was in the corner to the right. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, I didn't know it was not normal. So I'm like, the man's in the corner again, because I talked really early too.
Yeah, so did I. Very early, walked early.
I was a creepy, remember the Little Caesars commercial when the baby is talking? Pizza, pizza. That was me. But anyway, and so my dad, I always tell this story because this is what I remember my dad doing most of my childhood, because he was Irish Catholic, and I was saying and doing things that didn't match up with what he was brought up with.
Yeah.
And then there's my mother, who was like, oh, what color shirt is he wearing today?
Asking all the right
questions. Because of her, I never thought I was not seeing it. Like I didn't get trained out of it, which I think we do to our children inadvertently, and because we don't want our children to be afraid of anything. Mm-hmm. But they're seeing stuff all the time. I just was fortunate that I didn't have that happen. So I think, and then as time went on, different things happened, and teenage years were a little rough with TKR and stuff. And then I could write a book.
Yeah, you should.
I probably should, but I don't even know where to start. But it's interesting to, at my age now, because I'm 56 now, to look back at myself, at 3. And I remember being 3. Like I remember the very first song I ever heard that ever made sense to me. The very first song there, I finally connected that the words and the music meant something, was Summer Breeze.
Seals and Croft.
Yep. And I remember I was like, oh, wasn't that pleasant? What a weird child I was.
Yeah.
And
I got news for you. You took that into adulthood.
You don't have to tell me that.
You are one of the weirdos, babe. I love you so. One of my own. Yep.
I've not been very good at being somebody other than me, basically.
Yeah.
Ever. But
you are entirely authentic. Not a lot of people can claim that.
Well,
people try to adjust and adhere to it. It's in terms of grief. That's why so many people isolate over the holidays, and just try to get through it, because
that was me the last couple of weeks. I'm not a very pleasant individual. I mean, I'm the first one to say it. Mm-hmm. I get nighttime and I are not friends during times like this. Yeah. During the day, I'm pretty good, but nighttime, it's like I just turn into somebody else because it's too much to think about,
It is.
And then I start remembering things, and I'm like anybody else that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, try meditating. I can hear Deb right now. You need to meditate. Meditation will help you. And see, I'm a rebel. I sit and meditate, and I'm like,
yeah.
I should probably be doing laundry right now.
Wasting time. Could be doing the laundry, the dinner dishes. Yeah, I
really want to finish that movie I started this morning.
I don't go to church. I live in church. It is a sacred space that I occupy. And before, I used to think that I was this seriously spiritual person, not religious per se,
Right.
certainly deeply spiritual. I had no clue until I was facing my own mortality with one diagnosis.
We
And
have that in common, sister.
yep,
Different diseases, but right there with you. Yep.
and the depth and the purity of my faith expanded in ways that shock me to this day. The events that I told Deb in the last hour in Soul School the other day, I went out. You never know when it's going to hit you. It's like a tidal wave. And I was sitting out on the back porch with Peanut, and it just hit me. You know, it was like Mom had just passed, and I started sobbing. And a beautiful set of wind chimes that had been sent to us after she passed away, that had her name on the bottom on the hangy thing. And it,
Yeah.
through the strongest storm or the sweetest breeze, listen to the wind and think of me. And
Oh,
all of
that's
a sudden, on a completely still afternoon, that, like the bells of St. Mary, like
really,
back and forth. I
so
looked up. I
cool.
couldn't believe it. I couldn't
That's
believe it.
really
I mean,
cool.
the bottom of it was moving back and forth and back and forth, not like it was being hit by the wind and hitting all of the, I mean, she was manipulating the wind chimes so that I had to look up and read that saying that I had forgotten were on those chimes, because we hung them, you know, right after we received them. And yes, I acknowledged the beauty of the message when we hung them up, but then I forgot, you know, then I'm suddenly diagnosed with a life-threatening disease, and then I'm dealing with this and I'm dealing with that, and I forgot what was written on those wind chimes. Well, she didn't, and she knew exactly how to get my attention, Dana, and
And
she
she
did.
did.
And it helped me to know that she was right here with me. And so one of the things that I tried to to let people know about in terms of any pain that they might be suffering through the holidays, the empty chair syndrome, is to acknowledge them, encourage them to come and be involved, to be part of
Absolutely. And
the family
try,
celebration.
it's the elephant in the room too. Like
Yeah,
nobody
yeah,
wants to talk about it, which makes everybody super uncomfortable.
yeah.
I have so many clients and they come in around this time of year and I'm telling them this is going to happen. They're asking questions about why you didn't put a tree up. I'm just throwing out examples.
Yeah.
She's showing me this giant cookie tray and she wants to know why the hell you didn't do this. And like, that's the vernacular I'm getting it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't read people more than twice a year. That's my ethical thing
Rule
of
of thumb.
me.
Yeah.
And I get them in the following year and they're doing all the things again because it was noticed by that person that was the empty chair that they were not doing. You know, it's not every person gets that, but very specific people sometimes get messages like that. And they know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know half the time, like the Christmas snake. I'm like, what the hell is that?
The hell is that? Yeah.
Something they did. I don't even remember. I was just like, I don't think I'm coming to your house for Christmas. But like, how would I notice, would have been to pull that out of the air? And so that was like the old, validation for the person because it connected directly to that thing that they did. And I think that's the cool part of my job. It doesn't happen with every single client that comes in. Sometimes those people don't even show up for 6 months to a year. Sometimes not even longer. Sometimes not ever. It's not up to me. I can ask.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit there and demand somebody show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the chair that you see over my left shoulder is Mom's recliner.
That's a nice recliner.
It
I was
is.
eyeing that up before.
Yeah. And Peanut has turned it into her personal fainting sofa. And went, because, oh, Mom, you're leaving for what?
I am
Going to
feeling
get
weak.
mail?
Wait, I have to do a paw shape hand.
Street. Oh my God. When Greta comes to pick me up to go make a trip, she's like, I cannot.
My heart is snapping in two. How could you?
She'll throw herself in my luggage. God forbid that Greta comes in the house and grabs a piece of luggage, and Peanut looks at her like, you evil woman, you have come here to take her away. I mean, she just puts it on. She's such a drama queen. Kind of like her mother.
I was going to say, don't they say that animals are like their owners?
Yes, we all
Now
have
let's
our
put
moments.
this in perspective, though, because I am not known for flashing my rear end, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To the camera, like my cat does.
Yeah.
Let's just clarify that.
Well, you might not have as attractive a rear end as the cat does. They know
that's a given.
how beautiful they are. Oh, Peanut's got the cutest bum. I call it her rump roast. She is kind of bottom heavy. Oh my God, where is she? I didn't mean that as an insult, sweetheart. I love you. You know I did.
Right now she's on the treadmill like, you jerk.
Yeah, no, she's actually on the dog sofa. They do have their own sofa in this room. Yeah, that's my baby. Oh my God, Dana, I just knew our conversation was going to be all over the place tonight.
It usually is. Sorry, guys, if you were looking for structure. We're not.
No, but you know what? Here's what's important to know. And this is true. I'm going to tell you something you already know.
Okay.
Tonight, during our just a little short of an hour that we have on A World Awakening, either you or I will say something that resonates to such an extent with one of our viewers or listeners that it is life altering. And that happens every show I do with someone who says something that changes the way someone else out there thinks. And that's the whole purpose of A World Awakening, is to help people evolve spiritually and think about these issues that frankly trouble us deeply in those wee hours of the night, when we are dealing with our own mortality, when we are dealing with the loss of someone else.
Yeah.
We love so deeply that their absence makes it feel like life's not worth living. And I will tell you honestly, as I told Deb 6-7 months ago, I didn't care if I lived or died. I was so depressed watching my mother slowly but surely slip away every day on a 24/7 clock of care, where, you grab a half an hour sleep here, an hour there, whatever, the baby monitors, or the sound monitors, keeping us, if she needs anything, if she calls out for anything, or just crawling in bed and trying to catch a few, just a few minutes of sleep next to her so that she's comforted. I didn't care if I went with her. I would maybe have preferred it. And then she left me, so to speak, and left us, so to speak. And 3 weeks later, I had a diagnosis that changed everything. I have never felt more alive. I have never felt more vibrant. I have never felt like I had more of a reason to be here than I do right now. And being confronted with this kind of a situation, as you well know, because you did a reading for me 2 years ago, in September, 2 years ago, took me aside and told me what I was going to be facing. I've still got it. You wrote it all down.
Did I write it? Okay. I remember it.
Yep. And, None of it resonated with me. I mean, I knew I didn't feel well. I came off of another event. I was feeling sick. I was coughing a lot. I was having issues. I was exhausted. You knew
Mm-hmm.
all of that, but you told me in the most loving, gentle way that you could that I would be facing life-altering circumstances for me. I thought you were talking about my mother and the loss of my mother, and that's not what you were describing. And, you
No.
know, I was going through some of my possessions because I'm kind of slowly but surely moving into her space and sharing her space and her room
Mm-hmm.
with her in the house now, instead of, you know, sleeping on a day bed or a couch every night for 2+ years. And so I'm making that transition, and I found what you wrote for me.
Oh, wow.
And I went
Wow.
through it, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, you never wrote cancer. That's not in. You didn't diagnose me.
Mm-mm.
You let me know that what I would face coming up was absolutely life altering, and that I would come out on the other side victorious, that I would vanquish it.
And look at you now, girl.
And look at me now. Fuck yeah. Well, you know, what is my mantra? Do you know my daily mantra?
I do. I can't say it verbatim, but it has to get out of your fluffy
Get the
vessel.
fuck out of my
It's-
big, fat, fluffy temple
That's
now.
it.
Go
That's
back
it.
and live with your father, the devil, you son of a bitches. Get out.
That is the most brilliant thing you've ever said.
Well, I scared them. I
I
scared
love it,
them.
though.
They're running for the exit, honey. They're like, this bitch is trying to kill us, and she's succeeding. And cousin Henry is gone already, and Uncle Charles is gone already. And, you know, oh my God. And we were a cluster, and we were a family, and we were all growing together in her lungs and her boobs. And we were doing all of this, and everything was fine. And she didn't even know. And we had like total control of the temple, and she's kicking us out. Bet your ass. Get
Temple is
out.
over.
Right.
Go
And
find
it's
it.
not quite as fat, and it's not quite as fluffy as it was a few months ago, because I have lost a significant amount of weight. But
Yeah, you
I
have.
had it to lose when I needed it. I had it to lose.
You know, that's what my doctor told me, because I used to be quite a bit heavier than I am even now, because I packed it on lately. But when I got really sick,
Mhm.
I think I bottomed out about 145.
Wow.
And it was almost 90 pounds from the time that I went into the hospital to maybe 4 months later.
Yeah.
So a lot of that was fluid from my kidneys.
Yeah.
But I was also, you know.
Yeah. Look at you now. You kicked its ass.
So far, I try not to be too cocky, but yes.
Me either.
I mean, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm considered stage 4 renal failure. I'm not on dialysis. I've been on and off transplant twice. They didn't want me.
Mm-hmm.
Now my labs are pretty much normal, and they don't know why.
And they don't. Like, honey,
I don't care why.
I don't care either. They did genetic testing on me about a month ago, a month and a half ago, because they wanted for me, if I had the BRCA gene or what, you know, any other cancer markers, at least, even though I didn't bear children, thank God, I, you know, could at least spread it through my bloodline and let them know what to watch out for. Nothing, 0 markers for cancer, 0. And 20% of my DNA is unidentifiable. And today they're hooking me up to the EKG machine again, which from the 4th time I break the machine. It works for everybody else, but it takes 3 tries to get an EKG on me because I short the machine out. And I'm trying to explain to the nurse, it's not going to work. You're going to have to shut it down. And when you do it again, it's not going to work. It's going to flatline. I promise you I'm still alive. I'm not dead, even though it flatlines. Then you're going to have to plug all the stuff back in, and three times is the charm to get the EKG machine, which
It
is
must be like throwing off electricity like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I short everything out. I can't wear a watch. I suck the batteries dry. I can wear them for jewelry, but certainly not to tell time. That's why I have a phone. I screw my phone up. Ask Linny what I do to her electronics when I'm in Georgia and she's in Michigan. What happens when we get on the phone and suddenly everything shuts down, or her iPad just shuts down while she's trying to monitor this show and be in the chat room. And, you know, it's happened over and over again, to the point now where I have to ask before I do my shows or even talk to her on the phone if they'll allow it, that they'll, you know, not have that kind of strange interference that happens.
Right. That's how bizarre. But
I
then
know.
again, not really. You know, that's the thing. Aren't we all just a bunch of jaded people anymore?
Yeah. Well, I told my doctor right from the beginning, Dana, I'm not from here. And my sister Christine's like, oh my God. Oh my God. You know, she doesn't want me to. When I left my appointment today, 2 minutes. Thank you, Bill. Oh God. When I left my appointment today, I leaned over and I gave her a kiss because, you know, I mean, I'm a huggy, kissy kind of person.
No.
And yeah, I mean, you might not have noticed, but it's actually true. And I leaned over and I grabbed her in my arms and I held her and I wished her a Merry Christmas. And I said, don't forget what I told you. We're going to beat this because I'm not from here. And she just looked at me and she said, Andrea, I believe you. I believe you. You know,
So, either one of us are supposed to be here.
we're not.
Nice.
And a surprise. And I feel better than I have never felt more alive. I have never felt more vital. I have never felt my job, my mission more profoundly than I do right now. You know, some people would consider what I'm going through to be a brush with death. It is actually a brush with life. And my mother is right here, strong and vital, no longer weak and frail, helping me through every single moment of this. So, because I don't do anything halfway, stage 4, inoperable, incurable, metastatic breast cancer that has spread throughout my entire body into my bones. And now they can't even pick up whole vast segments of tumors in the PET scans. They're gone. They're gone. And they're not coming back because they're afraid, because I cursed them back to their father, the devil. Which I don't really believe in the devil. I think hell is right here.
In this case, we're going to invent one to take care of that.
Just to take care of that. Then burn and liquefy and just find your way to the nearest exit. That's all I have to say. I don't care how you leave.
I agree.
Get out. Oh, wonderful. This has been wonderful. Yes. I adore you. You know I do.
We get along pretty good. Yes, we take great pictures together too. You know, there's all kinds of perks.
Oh God. Well, you know, Bill is throwing us off the air.
I see that.
I want to. I want you to enjoy this Christmas.
I'm trying.
Think of. Call me anytime if you hit a low spot. Okay, give your mother my love.
I will
give my mother.
She read your books in rehab. She was still reading. She was reading your books. That's what she wanted. That's no joke. I'm not saying that because we're on a show together right now. She was reading your books in there. So
I believe you. Well, I'll call you and put her on. She can ask me anything she wants. But
I'll leave you two to that.
Yes.
Okay.
But for everyone out there, please find your way to the light.
Don't feel guilty about being a little happy on Christmas, no matter what the circumstance.
No matter what the circumstance.
Even if it's 5 minutes.
That's right. It is the season of light.
Yes.
Be the light that you seek. And with that, I thank you, Dana. I thank
Thank
you all for
you.
watching and listening tonight. I'll call you over the weekend just to annoy the shit out of you, okay?
Perfect.
Okay, excellent. And
All right. Love you.
I love you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Good night.
Bye-bye.